And like just to all of the upgrades in Connacht's infrastructure that you have outlined there, it kind of takes me back to the chat we were having on Monday where we were saying the other provinces, as in the other three provinces versus Leinster, haven't been especially well run compared to Leinster. Now we qualified or clarified afterwards that Connacht don't really belong to that conversation. They have fewer resources anyway, and also all of these, all of this construction, all of this development that they're undertaking, the long-term benefits of it are absolutely enormous. You can't feel them yet, and you won't feel them even next year necessarily. But like for Connacht fans now, if your kids wind up playing for Connacht or if your kids wind up going to watch Connacht in 20, 30 years time, whatever, like that province, the organization should be in a far better place as a result of all of this. And I guess I just wanted to ask you, within the context as well of Munster redeveloping Thomond Park to the point that like, the plan was to own your own stadium. We didn't really get to that on Monday, but I guess like you do have to credit them or certainly understand where they're coming from in terms of putting in place home grounds and all of the facilities around those and actually having their name on the on the paper. Basically the long-term health of the provinces on that front is definitely promising, right? Like they should be viewed as positive steps even if they contribute to financial constraints in the short term.
For sure. Like that's part of it. You spend money to make money in the longer term. You're going from a capacity of just over 6,000 in the Dexcom Stadium as things stand, which they can expand to just over 8,000, as we know, with temporary seating, which they have to do for the big interprovincial games on a more regular basis. And now you're going to go to 12,000, just around 12,000, with probably scope to go bigger in the future if you want to do that. There's space there. And I think 12,000 is an ideal number because I maybe even with Thomond Park, sometimes you can slightly overreach what you're actually going to feel on a regular basis. And sometimes in Thomond Park, when it's not full, it can feel a bit echoey, And I remember speaking to La Rochelle and they said they really considered going bigger than 16,000, but they wanted it to be packed all the time. They wanted there to be this constant demand for places. And they actually have scope to expand, but at the moment they're happy just to have it crammed every single time, to have people clamoring for tickets and fighting for tickets and have that energy. And listen, Connacht probably won't fill 12,000 every time unless they take a great leap on the pitch. And it's brilliant to have that space. And on the big days, they will fill it. And their plan is for there to be more of those big days. And yeah, it's a big investment, 45 million in total for the whole project, 20 mil coming from government funding, and the other 25 it's from Connacht's reserves, which in fairness they've managed well. CBC money from a few years ago, obviously the naming rights, donations as well, and obviously a bit of credit facility stuff as well. So it's a big sum to spend, but I agree it's going to pay off in the long term. Even now with the pitch, like all the schools finals and the provincial games can happen on that pitch. You can play a lot of rugby on that pitch amid the really bad weather. I was lucky it was sunny yesterday, and it's always nice going down towards the end of the season. And even yesterday, everyone was mentioning, it's not always like this, and it's not. It rains a lot, and you need those facilities to keep running finals, because that's where your next homegrown players are going to get a taste of it. And definitely that was another impression I had. We were talking about it earlier this week, Gav. We're excited about Matthew Devine breaking through. We've been waiting for this, and he's definitely causing a buzz in Connacht for Hugh Gavin to start taking those steps when he moves on to a senior contract as well next season. And there's other guys in the academy, including Matthew's younger brother, John, who was a really impressive centre for the Ireland under-20s. And then in the senior team, you're already seeing the likes of Carl Ford and the Murray brothers and Dylan Tierney-Martin, Owen de Butler, Shane Jennings. These guys are starting to make strides into a squad that already we should flag includes guys like Caelan Blade and Jack Carty, Tiernan O'Halloran, absolute stalwarts of the province who've been flying that flag for a long time. But my sense is that there's, like everywhere in Ireland really now, it's kind of doubling down on that model of producing your own players, because fans love it. It's obviously cheaper than bringing in high profile signings from abroad, or lots of them, and you still need those guys to supplement what you're producing. Also, hopefully eventually you get them through onto the much discussed central contracts, and that in turn gives you bigger scope to do more. So there's lots of reasons why it's important. And yeah, I think Connacht are really focus on finding a few more gems like those guys and polishing them off. And they'll continue to do. Connacht deserve credit for their recruitment. I think they've been like, there have been a few misses, a few duds, as happens ever, but they've been very good at picking up unheralded players. Like Mac Hansen is probably a good example. Didn't come with any fanfare, but has proven to be an incredible signing, including from me, Gav. In fact, my reaction was muted as I recall, but he was a good example of how good they can be. Now he's a top end example, but they do pick up players from. I was interviewing Seamus Hurley-Langton yesterday, who like is a great pickup, a guy who no one in Ireland really would have heard of, was playing NPC in New Zealand, didn't pick up a Super Rugby contract, but they got him up, and now he's a real fan favourite. And yeah, a guy with a great story. So we'll have that piece in the next couple of days. So yeah, they're doing their best with what is a relatively limited budget. They don't have the spending power that bigger clubs, even some of the other provinces, have. But the hope is that with the stadium being bigger, that gap will close.